That's the bottom line.
You want a war? You're gonna get one.
The cream rise to the top, oh yeah.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
Welcome everybody and to another will be episode 44 of the Bottom Line. Before we get started tonight, I just wanted to let everybody know that Brett Tierce has decided to go a different direction and will no longer be on the Bottom Line podcast. But we wish him nothing but the best, and we hope that I just want to let him know that he'll always be a friend of the podcast.
But hey, the show must go on, right? It must go on.
Must go on.
Must go on. So we reached out to this gentleman. I don't know if I use do I use that loosely, Eric, or do I mean?
I would use that real loosely. Loosely.
Well, until we get to know him a little better, but just want to bring on a guy that has agreed to fill in, and he will now be part of the weekly podcast, and he will also be a part of the college and NFL season when that gets here in late July. Let's bring him on, none other than KJ.
The disciple. Take it off mute, new guy. Jeepers, criminy.
Starting off with a bang. Good job. What's up, y'all? Thank you for having me on. This is awesome.
So we've got a lot to get to, and not a whole lot of time to get there. So, of course, they had a big reveal tonight of the NFL schedule for the 2025 season.
Got a puke.
Good evening, Amanda. Darja, as I call her. How you doing, Chris? Thanks for joining. My Panther Pride. Always like to see you guys step in. So they come out with the reveal at 7:00, and we just thought we would divide and conquer as a podcast. So they started off with all the Thanksgiving and Christmas matchups and all that. So we've been scrambling here to try and get some content for you, but we decided to divide and conquer and each take a couple divisions. So who would like to start off?
Oh, I'll go.
You're gonna go?
Okay. I'll get it right out of the way. So we're going to start with the NFC East. Okay, Eagles, Commanders, Cowboys, and the lowly Giants. And that's exactly how I see them finishing in the division. I've got the Eagles still on top. As I look at the Eagles' schedule, they obviously have some big matchups, but, big matchups to the Eagles are going to be a little bit different than big matchups to other teams. I've pointed out I've got 7 dates that I think are going to be big on the Eagles' schedule. Week 1 in Dallas. They do start out with 3 tough games. I don't know how tough Dallas is going to be. I don't think anybody knows, what Dak Prescott's going to look like coming off the Achilles. I think we saw what Aaron Rodgers looked like. I think we saw what Kirk Cousins looked like. So I don't know what that's going to be. But it's always a big matchup between Dallas and Philadelphia week 1. Week 2 is Kansas City at Kansas City. That'll be a test. It's always a test when you go into Mahomes' house. And then week 3 is the Rams. And then really, even though my Chicago Bears are in the middle there, week 11 is the next one that I see, and that's against the Detroit Lions. So from week 3 to week 11, I feel like Philadelphia should probably win those games. And then they finish out. This will be the real test on the Eagles' schedule. Week 16, Commanders. Week 17 at the Bills. And then week 18 against the Commanders again. So the Commanders and Eagles will go week 16 and week 18. So that'll be tough games for both of those and probably in my opinion, decide the division that I think the Eagles are going to come away with. And as I look at the Washington Commanders schedule, I think they have a little easier time than Philadelphia, and rightfully so. They got Cincinnati Bengals in week 3, the Ravens in week 6, the Bears. You've got the rookie quarterbacks now, second-year quarterbacks facing off in week 8. Then week 11. Week 12, they've got the Cowboys, and week 16, obviously, against the Eagles. So, I see, I don't know. How do you guys feel? I think the Eagles are I kind of feel like the Eagles are favored to win again. Would anybody argue with that?
No.
I really feel like Philadelphia is going to be the favorite again. They do have a tough schedule, but when I kind of feel like you're the favorite, the schedule isn't as tough. Washington obviously has some big games and so on and so forth, but I think their schedule, I see the Giants. Obviously, the Giants are on there twice. They got the Cardinals. They've got the Browns. They've got the Panthers. The Steelers. What are the Steelers going to be? Do they even have a quarterback yet?
No.
I know somebody else will touch on the Steelers, but they don't have a quarterback. They got the Titans. They've got the Saints. They got the Falcons. So I see the Washington schedule being a little easier than Philadelphia, but again, Philadelphia is the team to beat. But then as I look at Dallas's schedule, I think Dallas probably has I would argue the toughest schedule in the division. Throw out the Giants. If you're going to take the top 3 teams, Eagles, Commanders, and Cowboys, they open up week 1 with the Rams, week 2 with the Ravens, week 1 with the Eagles, week 3 with the Bears, week 4 with the Packers, week 7 at the Commanders, week 8 at the Broncos, week 12 at home against Philadelphia, week 13 at home against Kansas City, week 14 at Detroit, week 15 at home against the Vikings, week 16 at home against the Chargers, and week 17 at the Commanders. So I guess as I see their schedule, they're looking. Obviously, they have the Eagles twice. They've got the Commanders twice, but they also have added the Chargers, Vikings, Lions, Bears, Kansas City, and Packers. I think Dallas probably, has the toughest schedule on the slate. And as I see it, I see Philadelphia, probably being somewhere in that 13-4 range. I see the Commanders winning somewhere in the neighborhood of that, 10-11 range. I see Dallas 9-8. at best. All the way down to potentially 7-10, depending on how Dak comes through. And then the Giants. The Giants, I'm not going to go through the Giants' schedule per se. I mean, they got to play the Commanders twice, Dallas twice, Philadelphia twice, and then they play all the NFC North teams. They also have the Chargers, Kansas City. They got the 49ers on there. I could easily see the Giants winning 3 games, maybe 4 at best. So that's really how I see the NFC East stacking up. I think Philadelphia is obviously the cream of crop. I see Cowboys coming. I see the Cowboys missing the playoffs. I see Philadelphia and Washington being the 2 playoff teams out of the NFC East. So if you want to move on to the next NFC division, Ed, that'd be great. You're right, Chris. Chris says here, the Commanders are no longer sneaky. I get that. But I really do think that Washington is the number 2 team in that division, regardless of whether they're sneaky or not. Again, Dak Prescott is going to have to prove to me that he's healed and that he can run that offense and be effective. So I guess that's just how I see it. KJ, what do you see it that way?
I definitely have to agree with Chris. I think the allure or the unknown factor that the Commanders had on their side last season is probably worn off after ample amount of coaching film now has been established with seeing how they're structured. I think you're 100% on par to state that the Eagles are still kind of at the top of the division and arguably the league with bringing both QB and Saquon back. I mean, you got your premier starters that makes all the difference year to year. So I didn't watch a lot of them last season, but I mean, seeing the games later in the year and especially in the playoffs, I even thought, I think, was it Washington that played them or whoever they put the thromping on in the first or second round of the playoffs. I thought it was going to be a much closer game. It wasn't even near what I thought it would be. So, I mean,
right.
I think you're right to say that they deserve the nod, so to speak, from a presupposition of who he thinks is going to be the team to beat. So,
right. So, Ed, as I've got it down, I've got the Eagles in that 13-win range. I've got the Commanders in that, somewhere around that 11-win range, 10 to 11-win range. Got Dallas somewhere around 8 and 9, and I've got New York, 3-4 wins tops. Does that sound about right to you?
It's always interesting when you look at schedules. When you have a surprise team that was a bottom half of the division team going into the season, they always have that schedule, that easier schedule that makes it more inducive to have a better record.
Right.
What's going to be interesting, like you say, with the addition of Washington not sneaking up on anybody anymore, they also qualified for the playoffs, which put them in a stronger schedule. So now, crunch time, it's going to see with a more difficult schedule how they're going to perform. And like you say, the whole sneaking up on everybody is gone. So you become the hunted, not the hunter. You know what I mean?
And being paired up with the NFC North, could shake some things up. Would you agree, Chad?
Yeah. I mean, we like to think that the NFC North is one of the tougher divisions in the NFL, but I mean, who knows how it's going to shake out?
Right.
Lots of new things going on everywhere, but the defenses are still there. They still hit hard. So it's an interesting pairing for them.
All right. Should we go to the NF? Who's got the NFC North?
Me.
All right, Chad, you're up.
Super prepared for my my technology troubles here. So I think the Lions are the favorite to win the division again, despite losing, 75% of the coaching staff or whatever it was. It was insane exodus out of there. And they've got an interesting one. They open the season in Green Bay. Then they have Chicago at home. Then they have Baltimore. I mean, they've got some tough matchups here. Cleveland's defense is still tough. Their offense isn't going to probably be much, but Cincinnati at Kansas City. So they're going to at Baltimore, at Kansas City. Then they got Tampa at home. They got the Vikings and their first-year starting quarterback. Then you've got Washington at Philadelphia. I mean, the toughest games on their schedule so far are all away. They got the Giants, the Packers, Dallas, at the Rams. And I think the Rams are going to be really sneaky good again this year.
I do too.
I mean, they were last year, made the playoffs. I think it was addition by subtraction this year. I mean, I think Cooper was kind of washed, so they got rid of him, and Devontae might be washed too. Who knows? But then the Steelers, and then they have to go outdoors and finish the season. They have to. I guess Minnesota's not outdoors, but they have to go at the Vikings and then at Chicago out in the cold by the lake. So that's not a very friendly schedule. Some of the quirky things, Minnesota plays 2 games in a row outside the country in Europe. So that'll be interesting to see how they handle that in their young starting quarterback. You know, I think they're going to regress some. I think the Packers are probably going to take second in the division, and then Minnesota and Chicago are going to battle it out for last place. Of course, that's what I said last year, and then Minnesota goes 14-3, something like that. So who knows what they're going to pull out this year. My limited access here, that's about all I have.
Well, I mean, I think.
What would you guys like to discuss? Because you might have a little more information there.
Well, I think as I look at and I'll use the Lions because you had it Lions Packers. Did you go Lions Packers Bears Vikings, or you didn't?
I don't know right now. I mean, Jay McCarthy is such a wild card in this whole thing, and after the Chicago draft, I have less than zero faith in what they're going to do this year.
You got to have faith, bud. Ben Johnson likes to run 2 tight ends.
I know,
but
it's the stupidest freaking thing ever. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, as I look at the Lions' schedule with Green Bay, they start out Green Bay, Chicago, Baltimore. Then it's Cleveland, Bengals, but then Kansas City, Tampa Bay, Baker plays hard, then Minnesota, then the Commanders, then Philadelphia, then a bye week with the New York Giants, then back to the Packers, Dallas, Rams, Steelers, who knows, and Minnesota finish out Chicago. I mean, I look at that schedule. That's going to be a trying schedule.
Yeah, it is.
For a team that, as you alluded to, has lost the majority of their coaching staff. That's tough to replace.
Yeah.
We talk about players coming and going all the time, but coaches are tough to replace too.
Yeah, and like I said, at Kansas City, at Philadelphia.
Yes. And your home and away within the division is always going to be tough games.
Yeah.
As I look at I'll look at Chicago's schedule first. I think, they go Minnesota, Detroit, Dallas out the gate. Who knows what Vegas is going to be, new coaching staff, those types of things. Then the Commanders, Saints, Ravens, Bengals, Giants, Minnesota, Steelers, Philadelphia, Green Bay, finishing out the year with Browns, Packers, Niners, Lions. I mean, depending on what Chicago is, I could see them going anywhere from 5 to 6 wins to 9 or 10 wins. It just depends on, how long it takes a new offensive line to mesh and how quickly they probably get. Is Caleb Williams, is he going to take a step forward? Is he going to take a step back? that's the biggest thing I guess I look at. And then Minnesota, without going through Minnesota's schedule, the biggest question I have, and Ed being a Minnesota fan, is, man, the NFL is a passing league. You've got Addison, you've got Justin Jefferson there. Did McCarthy? Hawkinson. I mean, did McCarthy even attempt 30 passes in his whole career at Michigan? They beat Penn State and he didn't even attempt to pass in the second half. I mean, that's to me the biggest question mark is what is it going to be for McCarthy? Does he pick it up? Is he the guy? Or is it just he was the first round draft pick, so we're all thinking, oh, he's going to be the guy? I just don't know, Ed. You're the Viking fan.
Their season basically rests squarely on his shoulders because during the offseason, they made a lot of moves to even, beef up their offensive line. They added more pieces to the defense, and it's like they're truly trying to take advantage of the rookie contract by adding other pieces, which is what I've wanted to happen for years. The problem is that if McCarthy does great, then that's a recipe for success. But if McCarthy crashes and burns with the schedule that Minnesota's got this year, that's the problem with going 14-3.
Yes.
I mean, the next year that schedule is tougher, and if McCarthy's not ready for it and it ends up being too much for him, it's going to be hard for Minnesota to survive. I look at Minnesota. Probably is not much better than a 500 team this year, just because I think their schedule is ridiculous this year.
Yeah, there's definitely as I look at the schedule in the NFC North because of the NFC East, kind of pairing.
Who do the Vikings play that the Bears don't? I don't have them.
I think the Bears got the 49ers. Who did Minnesota get?
Let's see. Let me pull it up.
I mean, because they both have division games they have to play, and then they're
so they start off with the Bears. You don't know what you're going to get, but got to believe they're going to be improved.
Who are the Vikings playing that the Bears don't?
Chargers. So play the Chargers. The Bears don't play the Chargers.
Okay.
The Bears do not play the Seahawks.
Do they play does the Bears play the Bengals?
The Bears do play the Bengals, yes.
And
the Browns. But I don't think Chicago. Let me pull it up.
Does the Bears play Philadelphia?
Yes.
So we got the Chargers, we got the Baltimore Ravens.
The Bears get the Raiders and the Saints,
Washington
which
Commanders.
are not good.
The Bears get get the Saints. The difference in the schedule is the 49ers, the Saints, and the Raiders. Those are the differences. The Bears play those teams, and the Minnesota does not. So,
And Minnesota's got much tougher. Their three are much tougher.
Yeah. Minnesota has the Chargers. Who else did I say?
Baltimore Ravens.
Bears play the Ravens too, but those off games, Minnesota's got the Chargers.
Do they got the Washington Commanders?
Yeah, it looks like both teams play the NFC East and AFC North.
Yeah, Minnesota has Seattle, the Chargers, and let's see, who did I miss?
So Seattle.
Oh, and the Falcons. The Bears. I don't think the Bears play the Falcons.
Oh, okay. Those are pretty comparable.
Yeah.
I mean, but I don't know how much, other than having to play 2 back-to-back away games in Europe, I don't see as the Vikings schedule being that much more difficult than the Bears schedule.
The reason the only reason, Chad, that I would agree with Ed is the standpoint of J.J. McCarthy coming off injury.
But that doesn't
First
have to do
year-
with the schedule.
Oh, I get that, but the reason I look at the schedule, it's kind of like if the Bears had Philadelphia's schedule, I'd be like, they're going to win 5 games. But they don't. And Philadelphia is better. So I feel more confident saying Philadelphia is going to win 13 games. If the Bears and Minnesota schedule is comparable, and I agree with you, it would be. But I have to give the nod to Caleb Williams and the Bears winning more games with a comparable schedule right now than I would JJ McCarthy and the Vikings.
What I'm just saying is Ed thought
Yeah.
that the Viking schedule is much more difficult, and I think they sound essentially the same.
Yeah.
You know, when I look at it too, I see that one advantage the Vikings get is, you know, when I found out they were playing overseas 2 weeks in a row, first thing I thought of is, how does it compensate on their schedule? Is it a home and away that gets taken away? What exactly? But the way it turns out is the Vikings retained all 8 of their home games, and both of the games they're playing overseas are coming off their away part of their schedule,
Oh, okay.
which basically gives them 2 neutral site games. So, which could be even home games depending on how the crowd ends up dividing out when they're over there. But
Yeah, they're generally a mix.
So KJ, I don't know how much you know about the North. I don't know what your NFL team is. But we have seen in the past.
By the way, this is a half
That's
an
gotta
hour
be a
on
joke,
2
right?
divisions. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah, right. Are you a Cowboys fan?
No, I'll root for the Browns before I root for Jerry World. Sorry.
Okay, all right, okay. So my question is, we have seen
here's a hit. Look at his backdrop, and you'll see everything that pertains to Houston.
Okay, all right. So my
I do
thought
have one.
process
It's not a
is this. I've seen a lot of quarterbacks. You know, Robert Griffin was a phenomenal quarterback. Screws his knee up, never the same.
Yep.
You know, we can go down a list of a lot of quarterbacks that had those type of injuries that were never the same. Is JJ McCarthy even the same quarterback that we didn't really know about now coming to the NFL after the knee injury? That's my biggest worry about Minnesota.
Yeah. The only thing I could say with regards to, like, what's the right term? High profile positional, high profile positions that have injuries. I don't know of many, if any, to your point, in the QB position especially, that get a lower body injury and come back, a substantial lower body injury, and come back at the same level ever. I can't think of one. I can think of a few, like running backs or linebackers who have had, success on a rebound, luckily even after some injury. But at the QB position, I mean, even the most prominent one I can think of, and this is probably an odd one, but it's significant because of the award he won and the fact that he did play well, even if it was only a year after injury, was Alex Smith.
Right. Yep, that's one.
But I mean, even that you couldn't say is a true rebound because it wasn't substantiated. It was one season, and he did it to check a box, I think, for himself personally, admirably so. But I mean, take all that into consideration and then compound your point. The injury he's coming from is from college. It's not even from the pros. So like that almost seems like a double whammy against him, right? I would think, in my head, at least, thinking through it logically. So
Ed, you're the Viking fan. You're confident? You're okay. You're like, JJ's our guy. Because JJ is your guy.
Well, we don't have a choice but to have him be our guy.
That's right.
Am I confident? Well, no, I'm not confident. We haven't seen one down in the regular season yet in the NFL from him.
Hey.
So, but I think that I just think that anything more, expecting more than a 500 record is probably reaching this year.
But because of everything that's
But with
happened,
the talent, with all the talent they got, though, that's not going to be good enough.
but no, you're right. But Aaron Rodgers has not been signed yet. There is still a chance that the prophecy can be fulfilled.
No, I think
I was going to ask the opposite question from Eric's vantage point and go, who else is in the QB room who could surprise us, in theory, that's behind him?
So who?
That's the problem too.
Yeah, the QB room.
The Vikings got a defense that's going to keep them in some games. The question becomes: can McCarthy drive the truck and put points
Right.
on the board? That's what remains to be seen.
Right.
But as far as the quarterback room goes for Minnesota, it's kind of like McCarthy or bust. If he doesn't pan out, they're in big trouble.
I want to remind everyone, we all thought last year in the preseason that the Vikings were going to be lucky to win 3 games or 4 games.
Whoa!
And look what happened.
Chad, that's not our fault. The lone Viking fan on the show was losing his mind.
I know. He used to have a full head of hair. Last year at this time, that was a luxurious.
He had like an afro. Yeah, luxurious, full afro, and now it's all retreating like a bunch of cowards.
Yeah, he just ripped it out.
All I'll say is if they still had Mike Zimmer, you could at least throw the wild card to say, hey, he's done it before with the skew of quarterbacks. Maybe he can do it again. But
Right.
Well,
all right, we got to move. We got to move, Ed. You got the NFC West, right, Ed?
Coach Zimmer and oh shit, I just went Belichick. They're double dating now, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. But
They both
NFC,
got significant others that are.
And Ed, just when I was kind of all right. Look who pops on. I'd rather be a Vikings fan than a stupid Bears fan or a Texans fan. I mean, at least he included you, KJ. Usually it's just 100% just.
My AFC West was a more spicy division to talk about. The NFC West, I got to be real. I think I think the Rams are going to run away with that division, no questions asked. But when I look at the schedule for all 4 of those teams, there is, of course, you can never do year over year. I get that because teams change and blah, 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 blah,
right.
blah. But I look at the 49ers, Rams, Seahawks, and Cardinals schedule, and I thought going into it, I can come up with a difficult stretch of the schedule. I can come up with a weak stretch of the schedule. I look at all 4 of their schedules, and I think because of their division, there's going to be at least, I think the Rams are a runaway, but you can't really count the 49ers and Seahawks out because their strength of schedule. I think the division's going to be weak. But Seahawks, they got enamored with Sam Darnold, and I can tell you that Sam Darnold survived because of the talent he had around him. And when the push come to shove at the end of the year, when they needed him the most, and it was time to step up, he couldn't do it. And I think we all saw what happened. So now you throw him on the Seahawks team, and it's not a bad schedule. It's not a difficult schedule. But who does he got? DK Metcalf is gone.
Gone.
So that weapon is gone. So he really doesn't have the tools to be successful. So I don't see the Seahawks with any more than 5 wins this year. Am I wrong?
Ooh.
That's
a spicy take. They still have JSN. They still have your boy Noah Fant at tight end. It's over right there. You got a Hawkeye tight end. It's all over.
Chris Metcalf went to Pittsburgh.
You're traded for a second rounder.
DK will be wearing the Steelers black and gold. But I would agree with you, Ed. So
Chris says he thinks that Ty Scott will be going back to the
it's possible.
Seahawks.
It's possible.
Where the hell does Post go?
It's right here. Right there.
All of
Got
a
you,
sudden it disappeared. Holy smokes.
I don't know. You must
Must have gremlins in the background.
right. So you see the West going Rams,
And
49ers.
when you look at the 49ers, they gave out some big contracts. And then they forked out big money to their tight end too.
Right. Kittle's going to be
there.
there.
And so now they still got to pay their quarterback.
Well,
And I don't see him stepping on the field. I'll bet I don't see him stepping on the field for less than 55. Do you? I
I'm
mean,
hearing
the guy played good cop all along and went ahead and played his contract out when he could have played strong ball and held out, but he chose to keep playing. And now, as a result of playing the years off on his contract, now it's time for him to pay, and it doesn't look like they're potentially going to pay. But, I heard this last week that the 49ers may very well give him his deal. And if they do, you talk about being strapped under the cap. I mean,
well,
Kittle got big money.
yeah. But here's the deal. McCaffrey's going to be back. McCaffrey's going to be healthy. Who knows how long? I mean, he seems to be injury prone. You got Kittle. The question marks for the 49ers are Ayuk. What's he going to be? What's he going to look like coming back off the injury? Okay. They had the rookie. Help me out, Chad. He got shot. Huh?
Pearsall.
Yeah. He played really well. So, to me,
shaky too.
Yeah, the thing of it is, to me, the 49ers are the biggest question mark in this division. I could see the 49ers winning 6-7 games. I could see the 49ers winning the division again. I really could. So to me, they're the biggest question. I think the Rams are going to be solid. Seattle, I don't know. I think Seattle and Arizona are going to be fighting for the bottom.
Here's how I see it playing out. And tell me I'm stupid. We had a guy on our podcast this last fall that promised us 10 wins for the Cardinals last year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I think
yeah, he did.
I think the way this division
14.
I think the way this division potentially plays out, I think you got the Rams that are at least going to come out of this division with a weaker division. I think they're easily going to get 12 wins, if not 13.
Ooh,
I've got the 49. I've got the Cardinals coming in second. I got them with right at about 10 wins. I got the 49ers. I don't think the 49ers are going to be a 500 team this year. I got the 49ers at 8-9. And I got the Seahawks at 5-12.
Wow, Ed's turned into a Cardinal truther.
Yeah, all of a sudden Ed is Chad this year. Woo! All right.
So poke holes in it. I mean, obviously the NFL doesn't look at.
I agree with Chris. Hot take, Ed. I love it.
Well, but I think the NFL looks at the NFC West the same way I'm looking at them, because if you look at primetime games, it looks to me like the rule of thumb for primetime games is if you're just a ho-hum team, you're gonna get right in the neighborhood of 3 or 4 primetime games.
Right.
You've got the 49ers with 4 primetime games, the Rams with 4, the Seahawks with 4. I mean, so to me, the NFL's even not expecting that much from this division.
Right.
So, I mean, we can, as far as I'm concerned, let's get on to some of the meatier divisions so that we can get done by 9 o'clock, because we got to hit.
What about the NFC South?
We got to hit the UFL at 9 o'clock. No questions asked. So,
NFC South. Who's got it? Is that KJ?
That
It's
is
all
me.
you, KJ.
Hit us with the NFC South.
I'll start there, yes. I didn't get necessarily into specifics on win-losses for this division, but in terms of, I guess, giving a grade for their schedules, I'll just go down a list. So I put this is from most difficult to easiest. Buccaneers first, Panthers second, Falcons third, and the Saints fourth. Primarily, I guess, just due to the orchestration and order of who they play when. Buccaneers open up on the road. First game off the rips, a divisional opponent. Then they go to Houston. They get one kind of easier freebie, if you want to call it that, against the Jets. But then week 4, they're playing Philadelphia, even though it's at home. That's a pretty loaded game for within your first 4 weeks of the season, in my opinion. And then it kind of, I'd say, continues in terms of some of their road opponents. They've got to play the Lions week 7. They get a bye, but it doesn't come till week 9, which is, I guess, pretty close to the midpoint of the season, so that's not too bad. But then they've got a pretty extensive, I guess, road gauntlet, if you want to call it that. Buffalo Bills back-to-back with the Rams. And then they finish out the year. Who's the last ones they had? They play the Carolina Panthers twice in 3 weeks, which I think is kind of crazy. So that's probably an easy way to finish. But the start of the year is where it's harder. And I think to that point, your injuries are going to come towards as you continue through the season, I guess. So maybe that bodes well for them. But from my standpoint, that's the order I gave. I don't know, honestly, much about their pickups from this offseason, so I don't know orchestrationally what significant changes each team's had. That's just kind of going off, I'd say, how they did last year, knowing what I do know, which is limited for each of those teams.
So say your order one more time, KJ.
I had Buccaneers first in terms of this is from most difficult to least. Buccaneers first, Carolina Panthers second, Falcons third, and the Saints fourth. So Saints arguably have.
So guys, hearing those 4 teams in that division, is that not the weakest division in the NFL?
I wish Chicago was in that division.
If you're a Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan,
You got to be thinking.
I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
I mean, just go 6-0 in your division, baby, and you're in the playoffs.
Right.
Yeah.
Stay ahead of the other 3 guys, and you can come out on top.
I mean, that is the worst division, I think, in all of football. Because I'm not saying Tampa Bay is a bad team, but if you want to compare it to, the AFC East or any other division in football,
right,
they are not. Listen, don't even put it up there. Don't even.
You gotta love John, Eric. Those are words of endearment for you.
I thought at the Battlehawks game.
John doesn't give affirmation. It's just the jabs are essentially compliments indirectly worded or whatever.
I thought John and I at the Battlehawks game this year had a moment, and I'm like, okay, we're past. Now that moment is past. It's gone. Here we are. I mean, it is what it is.
I forget. Is he the Falcon fan?
No, he's a huge Notre Dame fan.
Yeah.
Let's say cold. That's just from geographic proximity.
Yes. Big Mike, trust me when I tell you, we're not hating on your Bucks. We're just admiring how lucky they are.
If anything, Big Mike, we wish we were the Bucks.
Yeah, without question.
The Bucks. I mean, geez.
And Chris, I would agree with you. Baker is criminally underrated, but Baker went through a stretch, and he's even admitted this, where he understood he had to grow a little bit. He had to take the shots he did at Cleveland and I believe it was Carolina before he figured out what it actually took to be an NFL quarterback. So I think it's because of that he is potentially underrated. But he's turned into a solid NFL quarterback, and that doesn't happen all the time when you have the stretch that he had prior to that. But
right.
So that takes us through the NFC. I will go to the AFC East. where I think when you look at Buffalo probably has, oh man, for a team, as I went through their schedule, I really potentially only see 3 huge dates. I'm not saying they're only going to lose 3 games, but I could easily see Buffalo being that 14-3, even potentially 15-2 with this schedule. They may, anything can happen. I don't see them losing a game in the division. They open up with the Ravens, which obviously will be, and I have that marked down as one of their big 3 games. And then week 9, they have Kansas City. And then in week 17, they have Philadelphia. But every single one of those games is at home in Buffalo. So that, I see them actually going 2-1 in those games. But at week 2, the Jets, week 3, Miami, week 4, the New Orleans Saints, week 5, the Patriots, week 6, the Falcons. Then they have their bye in week 7, week 8, the Carolina Panthers. As I mentioned before, Kansas City in week 9, then week 10 at Miami, week 11 at home against Tampa Bay. So, Tampa Bay is a good team. They get them at home. Week 12 at the Texans, week 13 at Pittsburgh, week 14 they got the Bungles at home, week 15 they at the Patriots, which I don't see them losing to the Patriots. Week 16, the Browns. Week 17, as I mentioned, Philadelphia. And week 18, they finish up with the Jets. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Did they or did they not win their division last year?
The NFL loves the Bills.
How
Josh Allen.
do you win your division and have a schedule? I mean, guys, I'm looking at their schedule and I'm seeing 12 automatic wins for sure.
Well, I mean, to be fair to the NFL, the division, the outside division opponents, where they play,
Right.
Clearly the NFC North plays, what was it, the
NFC
East, and then they also played. They're playing the AFC North. So that's all determined. That's a rotation.
Right.
That's not something they pick and choose. That's a rotation. It's those handful of games that are out of that where you're like, what the hell? And I'm not sure what those games are, but I mean, it's the luck of the draw. I always remember growing up, the 72 Dolphins, 16-0, blah, blah, blah. Well, yeah, turns out they had the weakest schedule in the history of an NFL or Super Bowl champion. It was abysmal.
And to their credit, they still had to win the Super Bowl, and they did.
Yeah,
but yes, I agree.
And they went to the Super Bowl the year before, so they still had this incredibly insane, easy schedule after they'd been to the Super Bowl the year before.
Yeah.
So,
but of course you got the Jets twice, which I mean, I know Chad, you're a big Justin Fields fan, and maybe they'll turn it around there. I don't know. Miami. We all know Miami. Maybe Miami sneaks one out, but in Buffalo. But the Saints, the Falcons, the Panthers. I mean, the Buccaneers. So obviously they are paired with the NFC South because they play all those teams. The Texans are a good team. I don't know if they're, the Bills, but there's a game they could lose. But the Steelers, who knows what, Cincinnati going to try to score 45 points a game and win 45-42. The Browns, I mean, I don't know, man. I look at that schedule and I'm thinking, run away. And as I go down through the teams, I am finishing. I have Buffalo, 14-15 wins. Miami by, I think New England could be better, but I see Miami as having a little easier schedule than New England does. So I have Miami still finishing second, then the Patriots, and then of course the Jets. But I mean, wow. I think this is Buffalo's division with not a whole lot of pressure. Miami has the Bills twice. Obviously, they do have the Ravens and the Chargers on there, and they do have the Commanders. New England. They obviously play. Miami twice. They play the Bills twice. They got Tampa Bay on their schedule. They've got the Ravens on their schedule, and the Jets are the Jets as far as that goes. But this is. I could see Miami 9 or 10 wins. I think New England, it does improve to maybe that 7-8 win range, possibly. And the Jets, I mean, they're just the Jets.
So what divisions do we have left?
Must have. Let's go to the
AFC
AFC
North, AFC West, and AFC South. So real quick,
we got to do rapid fire. So I'll do the AFC West.
Okay.
As I talked about, they look at primetime games as kind of a measure of, what are the teams that everybody wants to see. You look at the Kansas City Chiefs. If you count Christmas and Thanksgiving as primetime games, which I do,
right,
they've got 9 primetime games on their schedule. And I didn't look at the home and away, but if I was a betting man, I would say probably 6, 7 of those 9 are probably at home. Because, I mean, that just seems the way. But so when you was wondering what fan John is,
there you go.
There you go. Now you know.
He just jumped on that bandwagon.
But again though, has their roster gotten weaker? Has Kansas City's roster gotten weaker? There's an argument to be made, but they start the season off their first 4 weeks against the Chargers, the Eagles, then they get a layup with the Giants, and then the Ravens. And then they get a bye week and they play the Lions. And then the Commanders and the Bills. So their schedule's no joke. So when you're a first place team and you get a first place schedule year in and year out, when you start having a little roster fatigue, I think Kansas City's in line for more losses than they had last year.
Well, but let's also make the argument, Ed, that how many one-score games did they win last year?
Well,
things are bound to
absolutely.
even out. They're bound to even out. What were they, 11-0, 11-1, whatever it was? It's bound to even out. So, sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
You're going to find out, the Raiders, they get more hype every year, but they always end up pretty much the same 7-10 or 6-11 type of a team. They start off, week 2, they got the Chargers. Week 3 is the Commanders. Week 4 is the Bears, which should be an improved Bears team. But then they end the season. Week 14 is Denver. 15 is Philly. 16 is Houston. 18 is Kansas City. So, I mean, I don't see the Raiders surviving that kind of a schedule either, which,
no.
You look at their schedule and you think, oh, my God. You talk about, it's kind of like the NFC North. They're a victim of what division they're in, having to play the double the teams. The Chargers, I think they can make good strides. They hit the meat of their order of their schedule at the end of the season. 14 is Philly, 15 Kansas City, 16 Dallas, 17 Denver. So what will Dallas be? Who knows? But if Chargers are in a run for the division, they got a pretty tough finish. Same goes with the Broncos. They start off early with the Chargers, Bengals, Eagles in weeks 3, 4, and 5. But their schedule is pretty light till it gets towards the end with the Chiefs and the Commanders. So I don't know. I looked at this division real quick because I want to wrap it up. I got the Chiefs dropping to 11 wins. I got them going 11-6. I got the Chargers equaling the record at 11-6. I got the Broncos at 10-7, and I got the Raiders right in that 6-11 range.
I honestly believe. I think this is the year that Kansas City may not win the division.
I could see them losing a tiebreaker to either Denver or their Chargers, either one of those,
Yep.
depending on how their interdivision games,
Yep.
fall.
Yep, I
But-
agree.
Okay,
I agree.
let's move on. I think KJ is itching to do the South. He's been
He's
wanting to get on that Houston Texan bandwagon for almost an hour now. So take her away.
Oh, so rolling through it, my rankings for difficulty, I think the Titans still have the most highest hill to climb, if you will. Colts just behind them, Jaguars in third, and then ironically or not enough, Texans I think have the easiest schedule of the conference or the division, excuse me. One of the things that stuck out to me looking at the Titans run, so from week, I think it's 4 to 6, they literally have 3 road games in a row, starting with Houston, Arizona, and then week 6, they're in Vegas. While Arizona may not be a ton to shake a stick at, I know a lot of people have an upside view of Vegas, and the Raiders can always play.
You're kicking sand in Ed's face. Ed's a big Cardinal guy.
yes.
I'm not saying they're not competitive. I'm saying the fact that they have to play them on the road, and they're just one of those teams that can surprise you. Same thing, I think, for Vegas. So that on its face is a hard uphill battle, especially earlier in the season. And then also on top of that, I think in the second half of the season of play, they've got to play. The Browns aren't exactly hard, but the Titans aren't anything awesome either. So they're on the road against Cleveland week 14. Then they go to San Fran week 15, and then they got to come home, which is good. But they're playing the Chiefs, so it's not a good setup for them for a recipe for long-term success. I may have actually been gracious with my win-loss prediction for them. I had them at 5-12 to finish the year, which honestly I think can probably flex 2 games. I would lean more downward than upward, but that's neither here nor there. For the Colts, who I had second difficultest or most difficult, not even difficultest, another word, had them at 8-9. Jags I had at 7-10, and then Texans I didn't realize that what the record was because I didn't look back at it from last year. So this is complete coincidence and me truly just evaluating the schedule. I had them going 10-7 again, which is their exact same record from last season. I think that one definitely has some flexibility to go up or down, 2 or even at most, I'd say 3 games potentially. It just depends on how much improvement occurs. I think more on the offensive side of the ball than defensively. For us, that injuries are what really plagued us last season for making pushes in certain games, I think. So that's where my predictions lie, you should say. I could say.
So what do you have them finishing?
I have the Texans leading the division at 10-7. Colts coming behind 8-9. Jags following them at 7-10, and then the Titans going 5-12.
I could live with that.
I don't have a problem with that at all. So
No.
that gives us to the final division.
Hey, that's me, and I've got all of this fine analytical data here that I sourced out through all my technical difficulties.
That I sourced out.
So, the Ravens are the cream of the crop here. No doubt about that. With or without Aaron Rodgers, I don't see the Steelers as a threat. I think they probably finished third in the division. I think Cincinnati is going to be a score fest. We'll see if some of the young defensive players that they picked up can help shore it up a little bit. And then I see the Browns with Flacco or whoever, Shador or whoever the hell's at the helm there. I think they stumble across the line and Myles Garrett regrets signing that deal. The Ravens, they do have it pretty tough. They start out at the Bills. They are at Chiefs. They're at Miami, which can be tough that time of the year, around week 10. You go down there in that heat and humidity, it can make it a little rough. They have to go to Minnesota in that loud mess. And they're at the Browns, but they got at the Bengals. They finish up at the Packers and at Steelers. And depending on how Pittsburgh's sitting and whether or not they're doing well or if they've traded away T.J. Watt and the rest of their assets will remain to be seen. It's a decent schedule. It's not crazy tough, and they just signed Derrick Henry to a 2-year, $30 million deal today. So that's interesting at his age. But we'll go with that. I mean, I was wrong about him last year, so I'll probably be wrong about him this year.
I'll admit that too.
Yeah.
I didn't think he was going to do much, and they used him very well in their schemes for sure. He was surprising.
Yeah,
I
except for
saw a video of him doing workouts. I don't know where he was at. I'm assuming somewhere in Baltimore, but he was literally doing sled runs, or not. I don't sled runs, but weighted runs up like a dang grass hill, like that had a steep ass slope on it.
They used it. They used him everywhere they needed to, except for in the playoffs because they're idiots.
Right.
That is a hot take, Chris. I will give you that.
Yep,
I got $1 million question for you, Chad. Do you think this is the swan song for Mr. Tomlin this year?
I don't think so. I'm 56 years old, and in that time frame, the Steelers have had 3 head coaches. That's their style. That's what they do. And unless he steps down, I don't see them firing him. The coach in the division who should have been fired and was not was John Harbaugh. He should have been fired. He needs to go away. He and Lamar are not going to win a Super Bowl together. And if you're going to get rid – everybody is sick and tired. I said this all last season, KJ. All last season. When a coach and quarterback have been together for 5 years and they have not won a Super Bowl, they will never win a Super Bowl. It has never happened. And so you're paying Lamar all this money. You can't get rid of him. You have to get rid of Harbaugh, and you have to move on.
Interesting.
They're not a serious team until they do that. And they're not a serious team until in the playoffs they actually hand the ball to Derrick Henry and let him plow over people like the fucking monster that he is instead of doing all this other stupid shit.
Well, Coach Tomlin is so ingrained in the fabric of Pittsburgh. He's so involved in overseas stuff, and I mean, I've seen more.
I asked the question from the standpoint of, to your point, Chad, what you're predicting is essentially a negative, percentage win season or whatever, which I think would be the first time it's occurred, right? Because did they go positive last year or not?
Yeah, they did. I think
they can always maintain the plum or plus,
The thing is I think this is almost calculated. This year's draft they need a quarterback. This year's draft had no quarterbacks. Next year's draft is going to have a ton of quarterbacks. They're going to bring Aaron Rodgers in, who, although he did throw 30 touchdowns last year, it was the ugliest 30 touchdowns in the history of the NFL.
I agree.
That's what he doesn't want to show up to anything. He just wants to show up to training camp and go from there because he is the worst team player since Brett Favre. Right. So they're just going to go down the tank, in my opinion, and they're maneuvering for a quarterback, Arch Manning or whoever it's going to be. That's my opinion. Take it or leave it.
All right. Well, that's gonna have to wrap up.
We got people in the comments clamoring for the UFL, Chad.
Yeah, we've got people clamoring.
I'm out.
So with that said, we are going to say our goodbyes to Chad for the time being.
See you, buddy.
I'm like Kramer.
I'm out.
So we're going to take a break and hear from our sponsor and maybe even a UFL commercial. I do have a new one to play, but I tested it before the show, and it about blew my eardrums out. So I don't know if I want to chance it with the show or not. But Chad, thanks for joining us. He's a mainstay in our college NFL podcast, so he will be
back in August.
He will be back.
Mike, I left some tiny shoes for you to fill, Mike. You can do it, buddy.
The parting shot. The
Yeah.
parting shot.
I love
We
you, Mike.
will be right back and dive into the UFL.
We love the moments, the memories, the magic, the game. So let's get more. More action. More celebration. More unforgettable. More football. More of what you love.
Beautiful Sunday morning.
He was pumping up his beer snake friends back in the door. So many personalities on the field and in the stands in this league.
It is time to kick off our UFL segment.
It's a beautiful thing.
We are going to start off, courtesy of the UFL, with the DC San Antonio highlights.
UFL Friday from San Antonio. Come on, ready? The last touchdown they scored. Hogan stepping up, open in the end zone and caught. As a Mac touchdown inside 10. And Hogan loses the football. DC recovers. Will this be a scoop and score? Anthony Hines. And disaster to end the first half for San Antonio. To go. Up top. Beautiful pass and catch. Braylon Sanders down the sideline. And once again, a touchdown pass from Tom. Mark Rexer through a hole. Corbin. Does he have the speed? He does. Takes it all the way, and that's one way to answer. To go. We bring in the extra lineman. Oh, what a fake, and they throw it to a lineman who one-hands it for the touchdown. Gunnar Britton. And the big man may have put it away. Hogan. Caught. Marquez Stevenson gets the first down. Lost the football. DC recovered. Standings, DC the first team to get to 5 wins here in this UFL season.
I mean, you talk about being snake bit.
Oh.
I mean,
Yeah.
DC pulls out a 32-24 game, and that touchdown before halftime
It's a backbreaker.
just can't happen.
No.
I mean, you go from potentially, I mean, they had a field goal opportunity. I must say, but let's say they make the field goal. You go from potentially up 15-6 into the locker room to 12-12. Like you just have to go in the locker room going, what's going to happen next? And what happens next? Completes a pass over the middle. San Antonio's going down to potentially maybe tie the game. And we fumble the ball away and we give it to DC. Like, I feel bad for San Antonio because, like I said, it's a snake bit thing. Like, it just has to feel like what could go wrong will go
and
wrong.
always goes wrong.
You know?
And head coach Harris talked about how they were able to score 3 consecutive touchdowns down the stretch, and courtesy of the UFL, this was his comments in his presser.
You guys scored touchdowns on 3 straight drives down the stretch when you had to have them. Was there something different offensively that started to click for you guys, or what changed to have some success there?
Yeah, we was able to start running the ball a little bit, even though they weren't big runs, but it was enough to keep the defense honest. And now we're able to go back to our play action. The biggest thing we talked to coach about was let the offensive line get their cleats in the ground. So let's lean on our run a little bit, and that's going to help with play action and help our linemen stay on their blocks much better. So he did a good job. Coach Kice did a good job of mixing it up. So that helped us with those 3 straight scores for sure.
I'll say Bryce Perkins may be the escape artist athlete of the league, but DC definitely, I think, has earned that nomenclature or stereotypical stigma for the league as a team, because some of these wins they get, it's just crazy. But it's almost this point, I feel like I can predict it because it's so dependable almost. It's ironic to say.
Well, and KJ, you're right about that, because how many times, we're through week 7 now, and I've said this to these guys ad nauseum. How can you throw 41% completion percentage and throw for 300 yards and win a game? Like, that just should not happen. But it's like when Jordan needs to make a throw, or they need to hit rolling deep, or whoever it is deep.
I'm telling you, if I was playing Texas Hold'em or blackjack at a table in Vegas with Perez and Tamu, I'd be betting on Tamu every stinking time.
Every time.
But so the game comes down to the end, and offensive lineman comes in and reports eligible. Do you think that it would behoove the defense to at least give him a look? I mean, this was Jordan's comments at the presser concerning that final play.
Jordan, can you take us through the final touchdown there? It's kind of a little bit of a trick play that you guys busted out for that one.
Yeah, we worked it for 2 weeks now. We knew bringing that heavy package out there that we like to call Rhino, that everybody would be in that box, and we worked it with Gunner, and we practiced it. In practice, he caught it with one hand, and tried to do that again. But I'm glad.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Don't these guys have to report eligible, and that's like public broadcast by the referee?
Number 74 is report is eligible.
Double trick play right there. Like, how do you not guard the guy?
Well, you can see the safety, if you will,
right?
Clearly was just lined up wrong and couldn't get over there. I don't know. I caught sleep, and I like I said, I think it just goes back to, when it comes to San Antonio, what can go wrong will go wrong. What can happen will happen. And even though they've been in a lot of these games, they've been competitive in a lot of these games. It's like, here we don't want to win, or
even that last play where San Antonio still has time to come down and score. They complete a pass deep over the middle, and he runs another 10, 15 yards, and then he fumbles it away.
Yeah.
This game though, when you think about the first time these two teams played each other, it started out the same way too. That time though, San Antonio was able to finish. It was just a fresh face on the team. But one thing they did the same thing with Michigan. They start out, they give you a scare, they just can't close it out. It's just they need to figure out a way. I mean, just need to know how to complete make a complete game out of this, but they haven't been really able to close.
They had heartbreakers to end both halves. I mean, to Chris Mason's comment, you should post that up there, Ed. The butt fumble, man. That's literally what I called it when I saw it. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm having deja vu of Mark Sanchez watching this game. It was crazy.
Well, but don't you? Does it feel like San Antonio is almost the Arlington of 24?
A little like a light version of that.
Oh, yeah. I'm not saying. I felt like Arlington was a way better team last year than their record obviously indicated. But it's like San Antonio feels like they're there, and then it's like
you can pick. Yeah, you can pick similarities in different.
Yeah.
You know, but so if you're Coach Pardee, you come away with this game with your best production by far offensively of the year. Here was his comments, courtesy of the UFL at his post-game presser.
This was your most productive offensive game as a team that we've seen this season. Was there something different today that allowed the group to get going a little bit?
I think scheme-wise, there wasn't a whole lot different per se. I think where we had some success is, kind of what we were able to do against Michigan and DC, a couple weeks ago, is lean into our players' strengths. I thought we had a great game plan going into this game offensively. And then obviously at the end of the day, it comes down to players executing. I thought Kevin Hogan had a really good game. There were a bunch of guys that stepped up and made plays when we needed them to. And unfortunately, we just had one too many mistakes, if you will. But, it all comes down to, execution, which was our big theme for the week. It wasn't, new scheme per se. It was just honing in on the details and focusing on doing my 1/11th, so to speak, as a player.
And what we've come to find out, especially in this year's UFL, is that a lot of these games are coming down to the final 5 minutes of the fourth quarter. And as long as you're going to make the big turnover, make the big mistakes, you're just not going to win in this league.
Well, I really like Coach Pardee. I know he's young and all, but he says all the right things, and I do think he's working hard. But what more alarming to me, and if anybody disagrees, that's fine. More alarming to me is DC's defense is very, very cuttable. Unlike in past years,
they gave up a lot of points.
There was some frustration on the sidelines on half of the defensive coordinator Williams, where listen, say what you want. This is San Antonio, and our defense is like, here you go, here you go, here you go. To me, like we were talking about with Teamo earlier, is he always going to hit those big passes? Is DC always, if those don't click for DC, can they lean on their defense? I mean, KJ, can they lean on their defense enough to win the big playoff game? I don't know.
I would argue they haven't shown enough in that since, honestly, week 1 when they played Birmingham. That was probably one of their best defensive games since the entirety of the season.
But hasn't it felt like it's just kind of trended this way?
I mean, yeah, the stats and to Mike's point, the points on the board affirm that. So yeah, I can't argue with you there for sure.
The only thing I would say, Eric, is that if it continues on like it's looking to finish out, and DC and St. Louis play, for whatever reason, Teamo has got St. Louis's number. So,
well,
I don't know. We'll see. But I think their defense definitely has to step it up down the stretch. But let's move on to the next game. Keep the ball rolling here. Courtesy of the UFL. Let's look at the Michigan-Arlington highlights.
Selection with the Los Angeles Rams. Puka on. Kevin Ross in motion on first down. Here's Perkins. He'll pull it. He'll keep it. Perkins on the run. First down and more. Inside the 10. Breaking tackles. Ball batted out of his hand. Bounces right back into. Restrict his ability to catch the football, which I just don't think he did. And on first down, terrific throw by Perez. Breaking free is Vaughns into the end zone. It's finally an Arlington touchdown. Pressure comes. Perkins throws. Finds his man into the end zone. Malik Turner. For the Panthers from the 5 now for Michigan. Perkins. Back right corner. Got a man out out there trying to float it into Turner, who makes the catch. Second and 10. Maybe the final play of the game. Perkins. This is going to be the final play, barring a penalty. Perkins to the 5. Going up top. He's short. He stopped short of the goal line. Arlington wins it by a yard. 24-18. The Renegades get the win. The game is not Texas. And on 3rd and 1, Michigan looking for the tie to the goal line. Stretches the ball out. Toa touchdown. The try for the win for Michigan. Towers driving to the end zone. Michigan wins it. An improbable comeback for the Michigan Panthers.
Oh, Coach Nolan. Love the guy.
The only thing in that game that I question, Michigan's tendency to go for 1. When Arlington went up 24-18, in my mind, I'm saying we're going for 1. Get that 1, make it 25-18. Now I'm not saying they get it, but if they get that 1, you're almost guaranteeing yourself, based on Michigan's, tendencies, that if Michigan does come down and score, controversial timeout, Mike, I'll give it to you, that they're going to go for 1.
Controversy. They got it in time.
The only thing I can't figure out is if when you watch that replay and you watch the highlights.
That's what replay's for, fellas.
When he is at the very top of his leap, there's 2 seconds on the clock. So how does he come from that leap down to the ground to the point where I don't know. Just
you don't have to tell a Michigan Wolverine supporter about Clockgate. Look up that game between
right.
Michigan
Well, but my question is, why does Arlington go for 2? I mean, essentially, by them going for 2, they're saying we're going for the win at that point.
Yeah,
because you've got to kick Toa out of the end zone on a 1-point try if Michigan's able to come down and score.
Yeah.
So to me, when they went for 2 and didn't get it, I thought that may have cost them the game. That was my first thought.
You note that, Eric, too, like the component of Stoops in that instance is basically saying, I trust my defense, but yet all game had a testament of showing, okay, Memphis has gone with us tick for tack to answer us. We have to play the offense in a defensive mindset. And to your point, that's not necessarily what they did, I guess, with their extra pass selection.
I was shocked.
This is what I love about this league too, because with this league, it comes down to just old school ball saying to always take the for sure points, which you would think a PAT, that would be the for sure one, how it would be for what we know all of our lives, how almost automatic that PAT was from the 2, but for this, like easiest point, so to speak, percentages wise, is that 1 point. Going for that 1 point puts a lot of pressure on the other team. Like, hey, after touchdown, you got to get something, because Michigan, highest in the league, is statistically going for the 1 and being successful at this. So, like Memphis, same thing. Like just going, I think there's not so early in the game to go for 2 points. Just keep putting 7s on there. Just have. There's one thing about having that touchdown and then not like converting that. It's just like, well, we didn't get all of it, and you feel a little emptiness a little bit. But when you hit that 7, it's like, all right, we got everything out of that drive that we needed to get. So it's momentum wise, people who think momentum's a myth, like go on a college football side, like any sideline, you can feel the shift, and it's exhausting going, especially when the game's going back and forth. That is draining. And Michigan, though, so they just dial it up at the right time. This is like DC. I want to make a comment about DC. They're playoff football can be that way, where you just got to pull something out of a hat and make something work. So
Michigan's running back, is it Toa?
Toa.
He was asked to comment at the postgame presser on Perkins as their leader, and courtesy of the UFL, this is what he had to say.
Toa Jimmy Jai, due to 10 Sports. Right after the game, you mentioned how you had a lot of love for Bryce. Speak to how the guys being so close as far as the camaraderie goes, and how it helps y'all in tight situations like today.
Oh man, just Bryce is a tremendous leader on this team, and we all feed off him, we all pick up off him, and like I said earlier, it's one of those times where you look at Bryson in the huddle and you're like, yeah, I got this guy, he got me, man, let's go work. And that didn't just start overnight. That happened Monday at practice, Tuesday at practice, and he's just feeding into the guys, man, and his energy is contagious, man. So I love playing with Bryce as my quarterback, man. He's he makes my job a lot easier.
Love it. That football, man. We're starting to like these teams really starting the gel, and a lot of these guys too sticking. Like a lot of these guys, we're starting to see veterans in the UFL now too. That it's really bringing the teams together and things. So this is like really good to see. I love it. This is awesome for the league. I love that we get to hear the guys like that.
Well, Bryce Perkins showed again why he is my MVP leader. And I don't, I guess you could make an argument for Jordan. Jordan's doing great things too. But Bryce, they were down 18-9. Got to make the score, got to get the 3. He threw a great pass in the corner. They get the 3, tied up at 18. Arlington goes down and scores. Was it a longest drive this season in the UFL? Mm-hmm. They make it 24-18. What's Perkins do? Leads them down, scores, they get the 1, game over. I mean,
and the thing, my comment on Bryce too, this is awesome. Like for what we get to see, and he's an NFL quarterback. He has a Super Bowl ring on his finger, but he's watching Matt. He's getting coached by Sean McVay, and he's played a few games in the NFL. Just the talent it takes to get the NFL, because your football IQ has to be like impressive, and that he brings, I think, a lot of leadership to this Panthers team. He has a lot, I think, to he's seen the best of the best, being on an NFL team, you're one of the best, just being on a roster. So that has to count for something, and have him, all these younger guys, just getting the first taste of pro football. Awesome to see. I'm really rooting for this team. I think a lot of
no way.
I
can't tell.
So courtesy of the UFL, I want to show a clip on the frustrations of Coach Stoops, and KJ, I'll get your reaction to what you think about it when we come back.
Ron Murray, K104, Coach, your 3rd straight loss. Where's your level of frustration at right now?
Oh, it's high. Yeah. And, and I'll be honest, I don't know how, unless he was calling timeout on his way down to land, that there was a second left. I've never seen that happen. Someone run around like that, and only 6 seconds are off the clock.
My comment too. I want to make a quick comment.
No, Mike. We're going to KJ, Mike. You gotta wait. We're going to KJ.
Oh, I love it.
You have to listen now.
You
Go ahead, KJ.
Justify yourself, Mike.
My next comment will take a dark twist. So let me collect my. You go ahead.
All right, KJ. What's your thoughts?
I mean, his frustration is understandable, man. 3 weeks in a row, losing games. I didn't watch that specific segment live in the moment that it occurred, but every replay I look back at too, like you're talking, Eric, it is hard to fathom. I don't know. When I think of millisecond type plays like that have occurred in the NFL, even you usually have the clock dial completely set right next to the action of the screen of the play taking place. When the ball makes contact with the ground, you can see the clock and when it hits, what second marker or whatever. And from that standpoint, you could say justified, okay, yeah, the coach is right there by the ref. The minute the ball hits the ground, We got 1 second left, whatever timeout. Good. I didn't see that in any of these kind of, recaps of that isolated play. And so I think that's why you probably justifiably have a lot of people going, I don't know if I fully believe this looking back, but.
And so this is what, so after Coach Stoops got done, they brought in Luis Perez, and you knew it was coming. They had to ask him pretty much the very same question for his thoughts on that final play. And courtesy of the UFL, this is what Luis Perez had to say.
Wanted to get your take on the timeout with Bryce Perkins toward the end of the game, where it seemed like they allowed them to get the timeout. Just your thought from that.
Yeah, I know Coach already addressed that. Unless they called timeout, like Coach said, while he was going down. Yeah, I mean that's unfortunate. I haven't seen the play. Just sucks to lose like that. We'll leave it at that. Appreciate it.
So go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
Mike, you said you was going to go on the dark side, huh?
Yeah. So this was actually a pretty taxing win as far as the roster goes with Frank Ginda. This is teams looking, and now it's this kind of stage in the playoff or towards the playoffs. We're starting to see the teams using the Kentucky Derby analogy. We're starting to see teams take their stride. However, we can't, if you're going to make this run right now, you don't want to be dinged up. This is going to be playoff football. Now it's like, do we look at getting healthy if you're the Michigan Panthers? So I saw the injury report. You saw an ankle for Bryce. He's limited, so let's nurse it a little bit because he's running around the RPO game. We saw he's done a lot for the offense.
I love you, Bryce. I don't wish you any will. That's true.
So, but just, hey, let's play smart football here in the final stretch. We're in a good position for the playoffs. You got Houston now. Houston's going to be, they're going to be feisty. They're back against the wall. So, but we've watched how they play. So they're going to have to figure out what's the importance here, just what we got to do to best service ourselves as to try to win these games coming up.
It's funny you mentioned that, Mike. When I was looking at the remaining schedule for the teams, and specifically Roughnecks and Michigan, obviously that's playing twice.
Houston might get one of these, so
that's to that point. Is in my head, I'm thinking, well, okay. I look at the stats historically so far through the season. We seem to almost have better success on the road than at home. Pair that with the fact that, come week 10, theoretically, if Michigan already has the lock for the playoff spot, they're not going to, they shouldn't, I should say, risk playing Bryce all game or possibly, any of the game. And so you throw that in the mix, that automatically, I think, would up our likelihood of winning. So it's almost, do we have a better chance of beating Michigan on the road than at home? It sounds weird, but it actually, I think, has some.
And also, too, for familiarity. So now Houston Roughnecks and Michigan play each other multiple times a year. Coaching staffs are still there. So you're starting to get an idea.
Mike.
I think I would blame Chad, but Chad's not even done. He's not.
Here we go.
Mike's bouncing around. Well, he lost his point. Guess we're moving on.
We're gonna have to move on. So let's go ahead. Now it's time to go on to the next game, where the three of us could probably just go have something to drink or whatever, and just let
go to the bathroom and give KJ some time.
This is the universal sign.
Let's, courtesy of the UFL, let's watch the Houston Birmingham highlights, and we'll let KJ take it away when we come back.
Cook is on third down. Drives the ball, and that is intercepted by Arnett. Arnett on the return. Cuts back, and it's a pick six. Can they deliver at the end of this drive? He goes underneath, and Chisholm trying to work his way to the end zone. And Great play. Ball is loose and out and recovered as it was O'Neal who came in. And that is not a good sign. Case Cookus, helmet off. Lead.
Ready, set.
Smith, sprint right. Can he find something? He does it himself. I think is it 16? Watch him punch the ball right out. Goodrich. A great heads-up play, knowing Lawrence fourth quarter that's been written for him to this. As Person takes it right in for a touchdown. They were trailing.
What a story that was. Jamar Smith. That was probably my favorite part of the game. And, and I saw his tweet, and anyone see his tweet that the announcer at the PA announcer announced him like he was like the fabulous Hudson Hornet, and then someone posted a picture of the meme like as him as the Hudson Hornet from the movie Cars. Great story. That's just what I love about this league too. Just the guys just keep playing the game for the love of the game too. That's incredible stuff. So
I like the comment I saw on social media. Better it called him out as looking like Thanos because he was the villain of the game. And definitely rung true for any Houston Roughnecks fan watching this show.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Like that, you saw the players when the camera was on.
Shine the ball head, shine it up. Yeah, good luck charm or whatever.
You see,
so
that loss hurt though for Houston though. That was that was a painful loss. I mean, as a Lions fan, seeing games like that, like
despite them playing as conservative as they did the second half, I still would argue that if Case had not gone down, we would have still stood a strong chance to win the game. But
and KJ, when it was 25-6, I thought, man, all Houston, and this is my opinion at halftime, I thought all Houston has to do is punch one more in.
Mm-hmm.
Or just keep putting some sort of points on the board.
Right. Chip a field goal every series or whatever.
Yeah.
Sure.
2 field goals, a touchdown, whatever it was. That's all they had to do. You know, they had been moving the football. They got the turnover. They got the pick six. They had done everything right. And it's like they just didn't quite know how to beat Birmingham.
And they all Skip Holtz just said we just need to get stops. And yes, we can do that, coach. And then the offense just keep getting chance after chance after chance. That's just, you can't do that against a team like Birmingham.
Ed, do you understand Eric's comment? I'm not getting what he's referencing there. Unless there's another Smith, I'm not realizing.
Houston blew it.
Smith had
one good drive. He's not him.
Oh, he's talking about Jamar Smith.
What game are you watching, my man? Because Jalen was playing the whole game. So I'm not sure which Smith you're referencing.
I think he's talking about
Birmingham's quarterback.
Yeah.
Came out of retirement.
Jalen. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
I would disagree with that extremely, especially in the tenure of you pair him with the moxie that Bryce has displayed.
You got to get someone who knows the offense too. That's a very important part of it.
He's still, to your point, Mike, he's still fresh. It's like it's the Dresser win phenomenon against Birmingham in, what was it, week 4 or whatever? They had no film on the guy. You can't game plan for, especially a quarterback, when you have no film on him. And I get it. Yeah, Jalen's played in the league before, but that's 3 years prior. I guess if you want to go watch 2022 film, you go right ahead. You can use that, but that's all you have to go off of, and that's long, far removed. Skip Holtz, a good scheme coach. I think he can mix it up.
But it goes back to what I said. I've said this for a couple weeks now. We can sit here and say all that we want that there's blood in the water around Birmingham. They don't look like Birmingham has looked in the prior years.
Right.
But you know who Birmingham is reminding me of this year from last year in the NFL? Kansas City. How many weeks did we sit around last year in the NFL and go, well, Kansas City won another one. They don't look like Kansas City, but they won another one.
My brother told me that one too. It's
exactly what Birmingham. We can all sit around and go, how did Houston blow that? But realistically, I mean, more to the point is, how did Birmingham win that? Well,
to the UFL's credit, the only, I guess, asterisk I would put on that is I don't see a lot of fans complaining about horrible penalty calls or the lack of the ability to review controversial calls, which is
but because
in UFL's favor. So
I've made this argument, and we've had people in the comment line say different things about the officials, and I'm like, here's the deal. I really don't. I've never sat in a with a Battlehawk game or any other game I watched and said, hey, the officials X. Okay, you can say the officials are bad. They missed this. Okay, I get that. But you have the ability as a coach, especially on big plays, to say, hey, number 74 was holding, and you missed it. Take a look at it. And they look at it and say, yep, he was holding. So, I mean, you have those in your pocket in the UFL that you don't in the NFL. So when it comes to officiating, yep, we can argue that the officials are maybe not as solid, but again, in the NFL, you could say, well, you can miss a holding penalty every play if you want. But in the UFL, you have the ability to say 74 holding on that scoring play. Take a look at it. So, the officiating arguments, I just don't get into those because you have ability to not only win one challenge. Now, the argument can be made that there's some coaches that make some really bonehead challenges. Fine. But you also have the ability, if you win the first one, to get another one. So, the officiating part, yep, I get it. The UFL officiating at times can be, suspect, but you have the ability as a coach to pick and choose where you use those.
At least you have the option.
Yeah, and let's face it. There's a lot of plays where they go up to the booth anyway and review things. So, I mean, whatever.
I'm always a fan of hanging on to that thing for as long as possible.
So head coach Johnson was asked, what happened? What was the first half versus the second half? And courtesy of the UFL, this is what he had to say.
Coach Johnson, great game today. I'm just curious, what happened between, first half, you have a pretty strong lead there, and did you guys change up the play calling in the second half? And Brett, from the bottom line.
No, so the play calling was exactly the same. The execution changed. Just didn't execute what we called. First half, I thought the execution was a little bit better. I think we got more into the going back and forth with the opponent than playing football, and that cost us some untimely penalties. Defense couldn't get off the field, but I thought the play calling was, we went back through the script, so the play calling was definitely the same. It wasn't anything different.
So then, when he talked about the execution, quarterback McClendon then was asked to comment as well, and this is what McClendon had to say, courtesy of the UFL.
Jalen, did they switch up any looks on you guys in the second half with the front blitz packages?
No, they ran everything we anticipated, everything we seen in film, everything we went over in practice. We just, like Coach said, just extreme lack of execution by the whole team. Special teams, offense, defense, quarterback, O-line, like you name it, it was like accusing by everybody.
I had a chance to talk to CJ today. They had a press conference today that I sat in on, and I had a chance to ask him a follow-up question on McClendon's comments, and CJ made no bones about it. There was a lot of, I want to say, unrest in the Houston locker room after the game on Sunday. And things got kind of heated even between players, but it was more out of frustration from just having it at your fingertips and then when you need it the most, you just didn't do it.
It just shows how much they care about this deal. That's the heart. You see, it's heartbreaking. They knew this game was huge, very for like playoff, seasons here. I wouldn't count Houston out just yet. There is a lifeline here. You gotta take care of, Michigan. I'm telling you, this isn't over, Houston, by any means. It was a blow. It hurts. But it's not over.
So I can tell KJ it's Wednesday, and this happened on Sunday.
Still
and
not
I
over
can
it.
I can still tell that it's raw with you. Well,
Yeah,
what's your biggest frustration out of all this?
Gosh, it was crazy. I felt like I was in the Matrix, to be honest with you, at the game Sunday. One, because I went in with the mindset of like, okay, this is going to be a knockdown, drag-out game. I was expecting it to be very similar to, honestly, last year when we played them on the road in Birmingham. It'd be a close game with, a final drive by either team being what made the difference at the end of the game, which that part was true, I guess. But the meat and potatoes of the bulk of the game was completely lopsided and flip-flopped. And it was so funny because the start of the game, I met up with one or two fans, and the joke and comment they made, they did it in jest, of course, but they're like, you're going to get blown out today, right? And I laughed. I was like, okay, yeah, we'll see. And then, things take the turn they do through the first half, and I'm just sitting there going like, this can't be real. Like, did the Stallions really not show up this much? And, I knew going into the halftime, I'm like, this isn't going to stay this way. I guarantee this is not going to stay this way. Skip Holtz is who Skip Holtz is. And I know this team is going to make a comeback push. And it was sad. It was odd, ironic, because so many Birmingham fans were so dilapidated, even in the shirtless section right by me. So many guys were frustrated. The entire countenance and atmosphere had been lowered because of the run we had made in the first half. But I told the guys, it's like, man, this game is far from over. And I'm not trying to underline my own team when I said that. But it's like, I know who Skip Holtz is. I know this. I know the Stallions, who they are. And sure enough, they made their push. So,
but
no lead is safe in the UFL. No lead is safe. That's the thing.
But KJ, the frustrating thing. I mean, I'm just, being empathetic to the Roughnecks fans. The frustrating thing is this: if I was a Roughnecks fan, and the way that we kind of saw this season, our biggest question marks were Memphis and Houston, because a lot of roster turnover, a lot of those types of things. So we had no idea. Yeah, if we went off of last year, we'd say, okay, it's Michigan and Birmingham and forget about it. They're the playoff teams, whatever. The frustrating part of it has to be, if I was a Roughnecks fan, and correct me if I'm wrong, we talked about at the beginning of the year, how is CJ keeping his job? Why is he still all those types of things were floated out there. CJ had these guys playing.
No, and
these guys have bought in.
It
And
wasn't
to
even
be, you know what I mean? Like that is, and to Ed's point, that has to be the most frustrating things to the players is like they've come this far and to be like to be within reach of it, to get to that 4-3, to be in second place and to give it away. That has to be the frustrating part as a Roughnecks fan.
It's especially, I think, more so true to your point for the guys who are returning from last year's squad, the few guys that remain. I think it speaks even more. Yeah, this, to Mike's point, this was a playoff implication game with a lot of weight behind it. But even more so than that, if you look at the broader landscape, the broader scene for our specific team and the culture and atmosphere that has kind of trailed around or loomed over the Roughnecks organization is, I think a lot of people, at least myself going into this year, my high hope was, okay, let's just get 500. Like, even if we can hit 500 as a fan, I'm going to call that a positive accomplishment and improvement for the year and a good marker. We hit that, the week prior, and I'm like, who is this team? Like, what? The excitement was booming. And essentially in that action, or at that point in the season, CJ hit his ceiling. So it's like, can he eclipse the thing that has held him back, from the standpoint of his UFL career? Can he eclipse that ceiling point? Can he prove he's better and has more to give, if you will, so to speak? and it's just, to your point, it fell just that bit short. And it's not over per se, but I mean, I can't say that I have a lot of confidence in us being able to make a 3-game run.
They need to do whatever they can to get the 6 wins. That's the game plan.
So Coach Holtz, again, scratched out another win, and at the end of the day, that's all that matters. This is the comment he had to make after the game, courtesy of the UFL.
How do we get the team to start a little faster? It seemed like the cardiac kids this year.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, let me tell you, I would like to start much faster. It is certainly not by plan or design. We said we're going to start slow and come back until more people get in the stands. Then we're going to start playing right from the beginning. So it's all a ploy to get more people in the stands. That's what we're trying to get. We're trying to make it interesting and exciting. But I will say this: the people that came, and I know this is our 4th home game, but 3 of them have had rain or rain showers, 40-50% chance. 2 of them we've gotten soaked in pregame, when we went out there. So I get it. The weather certainly has not been ideal, but I want to thank all the people that have come out to the stadium, because let me tell you, they're loud, they're in it, they're an educated group. They were loud for our defense, loud for our offense, and I'm certainly appreciative of the noise they make when they're there. I just like to.
Yeah, for those who haven't watched yet, go see how a UFL fan watches the game. It's a lot of fun. Love going to UFL games. If you haven't been to one, you still have time to get out to one. So get out to the games.
So are you going to be all right? So you're going to be all right, KJ?
Yeah, I think we'll be all right. I'd say in closing this, I mentioned this to someone else in one of the fan groups, I think earlier this week. For me personally, if I'm upper heads, and I don't mean to speak ill or forecast on what will come with the rest of the season. Obviously, my hopes are still high that we can make the miraculous occur, as far-fetched as that may be. But I would say if we can't pull out 2 more wins this season, I think that come off-season time, some real honest contemplation needs to take place with regards to, making a change and a shift for our team, because we've already, as a fan base, I think, battled so much beyond the merger component. There was a lot of tumultuous stuff around that with, gamblers versus roughnecks, rollover of some fans, non-rollover of others, and trying to just fully, honestly break from that entire connection. We want to be our own team, just as every team does. You want to be held by and burdened by your negative past or your, the gray areas of your past. And I think that has to be a serious point of contemplation if we end up the year not being able to pull out another win, essentially.
It's pro football at the end of the day.
Well, the schedulers didn't do any favors with Michigan, DC, Michigan, so.
You never know in division games.
And we just talked about Tamu. I'm less concerned about not having a chance against DC as I am against, the what do you call him? The town juggler or town circus clown, aka Bryce Perkins. Containing him is going to be a tall order.
Yes, for sure.
So with that, let's move on to our final game of the week. Let's start off by looking at the highlights for St. Louis Battlehawks at Memphis Showboats.
Dresser won the former All BC quarterback at UT. Jonathan Adams rips it away. Back to 1980s. 1-7 down. Duncan Watson throwing. Andy Dodds delivers the goods. And they are grabbed. Pearson carrying the ball for the touchdown. And 13 yards out. Here comes Max Duggan. He's entered the check. Looked like a different quarterback on that drive.
I always say, I've said a couple times this year already, that you can always tell the more of the bigger snoozer games of the weekend by how long the highlights are.
Yeah.
And, we've had games where the highlights are minute 43 this weekend, minute 37 this weekend, and minute 24. And when they did the Battlehawks Memphis game, it was 40 seconds.
Well, the biggest part is, we talked about this last week, and I think it was Mike mentioned it. This is kind of a trap game. It could be potentially a trap game. So the fact that St. Louis came out with a win, obviously as a Battlehawks fan, I'm happy. I don't care what the score was. It could have been 10-9. I do not care. Get to that 5-2 mark. With Arlington stumbling, now at 3-4 with 3 games to go, you got a two game lead to get to the playoffs. I don't care what it looked like. I really don't.
So that's kind of you echoed the sentiments of Coach Beck. This is what he had to say, courtesy of the UFL.
My players, defensively, offensively, just to go out there and finish the football game. I think every week in this league you see teams have leads and they just can't hold on. We also, we all want points and all these different things. Like, we play great defense and we play off the defense and we find ways to win. And we're 5-2 right now. We're 2-0, then we're 2-2. Our backs are against the wall, and now we found a way to win 3 in a row, 3 wins in a row. All right, I don't think anybody's got 3 wins in a row in the league right now. Currently, don't quote me. All right, but again, it's hard to win. And when you start getting these kind of games, these close ones, these battle-tested games, it says a lot about your players and their desire and will to finish. So I give them a lot of credit, my staff, everybody, for getting that done. But we're 5-2, man. We love our spot. It's a big win for us, and we're excited to go back home this weekend, back to our great fans.
He's one of the heartbeats of spring football, man. I love hearing his press conferences. He's really
happy. So, he pretty much hit the nail right on the head that they're relying heavily on their defense. How far can that take them is the question. But here's defensive end Travis Feeney. His comments about the defensive play they had against Memphis.
Yeah, the defense, we've been just relentless, bend don't break mentality. Like Coach wanted, he wanted violence. He wanted us to finish the game and finish strong. We really been taking it on ourselves. Like, at the end of the day, our defense has to beat the other team's defense, and that's the big thing, and we had that big crucial, it was first half when they were down there and we stopped them on 4th down. That's a big stop. It's a big momentum shifter. And, that just shows that we're locked in. We're locked in. We're still hungry. Yeah, man, we're ready to go. The guys are doing great things. Nobody's getting down. Everybody's holding each other accountable. And when the pass rush and the secondary works together, there's nothing nobody's going to be able to stop us.
One of the, I was at that game and I was at the presser, and it was really interesting to see head coach Turner really, for all intents and purposes, when he come in the room, he was beyond frustrated. He almost looked like he was I don't want to say a beaten man, but if you look at Memphis, they've had enough offense to win games. They've had good enough defense to win games. It's just a play here or there that is just not getting them over the hump. They had 2 huge 4th down and 1 situations in the first half, one in their own territory that they went ahead and went for and didn't get it. And let's hear his comments, courtesy of the UFL, on that game.
Tough loss. In retrospect, you're going to see, I went for it on 4th and 1 early in the game, and I actually did it twice and went for it. Didn't get them. And it hurt us, right? It hurt our football team, right? So I'm doing that because I said, you know what, I'm not going to go down. And I'm not going to go down because I'm not being aggressive, because we've lost a couple games by 1 point. And so I'm thinking, you know what, that's who we are right now. We're losing by a point, so I'm going to throw every punch I got. So it didn't work out for me. So basically, you could put that loss on me for that reason.
My take on this real quick, And this goes back to what Michigan has done, which is those 1 points. I'm seeing they're going for 2. I'm like, I really think they should go for 1 point here. I just think Memphis is a team that should have taken that opportunity and just put some 7s or score 7 each drive. Yeah, and then just when they don't get those 2-point conversions, that really just it's a gut punch when you don't get it. And I think that takes its toll too over the course of the season.
Well, from the course of, and I've said this for weeks now, I was glad that St. Louis got Houston in the first week. And I was worried about playing Memphis in week 7.
You did.
Because Memphis has played everybody tough.
Yeah.
And as I said before, I don't care if it was 10-9. I don't care if it was 7-6. This is a game you got to just nail down. I don't care. To me this year, there's not one team that you can take lightly. Not one.
Nope.
And so to be able to get by, you only get the one game from the opposite side. In order to get by Houston, in order to get by Memphis, just win the games. I don't care what they look like. I don't care how you had to win them. I just get by them and take the W. So that's how I look at it.
Any given Sunday.
Yeah, and I agree with Chris. Coach Turner is tough. I love him too. That's the thing about the UFL, and I think that's the thing that a lot of people miss. And I also think that's a lot of thing that some of the UFL fans miss, is we get so focused on our own teams. Just love the UFL, man. Like I've watched every game, every team for 7 weeks. Haven't missed one. All 4 games every weekend. And I enjoy every single one of them. The personalities, the coaches, the access, the everything. So, I'm not going to sit here as a Battlehawk fan. I'm a UFL fan. I happen to be a Battlehawks fan, but I'm a UFL fan. So when Houston loses that game to Birmingham, it's not that I hate Birmingham, but I feel bad for Houston, because I feel like with the access that we have to some of the teams and being able to sit on CJ's, Wednesday, Zoom meetings and stuff, it's like you feel like you kind of know these guys, even though you really don't know them.
Yeah.
But I mean, you feel like you kind of do.
They wear their hearts on their sleeves.
Yeah, and I think that's the part of the UFL that I love, and why I watch every game. That makes, I guess, you see a lot of people. I watched Arlington play. Did you watch the other games? Well, no. Well, I mean, okay, right. But I watch them all, and I love them all, and so I guess it is what it is. But I just, whether it's 1-6 San Antonio or 5-2 Birmingham or 5-2 DC or 1-6, whatever it is, like I'm gonna watch those games. When Memphis plays San Antonio Friday, guess
and
what?
the halftime interviews are great too. Like with Coach Turner, when I love hearing his interviews, just what he has to, how he's gonna rally the troops. They'll have a kind of a message. They give you a hint of what he's got to tell the players in the locker room at halftime. He's like, all right, we got to rally back. Or it's he's got some. He knows a little, he's serviced in the military, so, he knows.
Got some moxie to him. I like Coach Turner.
Yeah,
I really do.
I like it.
I do think he's the guy in Memphis.
I think people got to see a little bit more of that kind of coaching too. Is like who's going to rise up in the occasion when you're in the foxhole? Like who's going to we got to figure. We're against the wall. It's good stuff. I love it. Like Coach Turner, like I hope he gets a chance to get his guys in there. Let's see. Because the scouting process. Let's see with a bunch of if he's a Turner guy, if he's got a team of Turner guys on there, like Campbell. Let's see here. I think we got something in Memphis to look forward to. I think I'm rooting for it.
And if you watch, with only having 8 teams, if you watch all the 4 games every weekend like I do as well, it's interesting to see how teams match up against other teams. You can watch a game one weekend and this team can play another team that you think how the game's going to go, and it goes completely different. It's uncanny to see how teams match up against each other. So
Yeah, 100%. I just think that's the special part of the UFL. I think the access gives you more. You know, I mean, let's
Or what
face
we
it.
love.
But if you're not ESPN or you're not, your access to the NFL is about a nothing burger. But the UFL is totally different, and so I just think that adds a layer. I mean, you look at the colorful coaches we have in this league.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got the astute, the Nolans, the Holtzes. Then you've got the fire of the Becks and those, and then you've got the up and comers, the new guys like the Turners and CJ. To me, CJ is a totally different guy this year than what I saw last year.
Yes.
I mean, I would sit in on meetings with CJ last year, and he just felt like, oh boy, we got to do this again.
Coaches still got to learn too. Coaches are learning too.
Yeah, where this year, when you sit in like preseason, CJ was just like, hey, we're ready. Like we're gonna do this. Like we're in. And I felt better about Houston coming into the year. Just by listening to CJ talk, I felt better because he seemed like a different guy. Now maybe it was the roster. Like maybe last year he just like, this roster's just not gonna do it. Maybe he was just like, oh, we're throwing in the towel. We even started.
They did overhaul their roster.
But overhauling the roster at the beginning of the year, CJ seemed like a different coach to talk to. And he seemed like, the wheels were turning a little bit better. And it has proven itself to be better. But when you look at, you got personalities like Stoops. You got all sorts of different things going on in the UFL. And I think that's what I think the people that have just said, UFL, it's golf. You're missing the boat. I 100% believe.
Heading into week 8, Brett was usually the one that handled our power rankings each week. So this was really my first stab at doing it. So heading into the week 8 games, this is what I come up with for the power rankings.
All right.
Brett had St. Louis number 1 last week. I think we all know, watching the games this last weekend, with how bad St. Louis is struggling on offense. I just don't see them being able to hold down the number 1 spot. So I dropped them a couple spots. I moved Michigan up to first. I think Michigan has shown that they are, in fact, the number 1 team, at least at this point of the season. St. Louis and Birmingham, I got at 3 and 4, but you could also flip-flop them as well. I just think both teams have a lot of potential, but they just haven't, for whatever reason, been able to put it all together yet. DC, I got at number 2. DC pretty much manhandled St. Louis in St. Louis earlier this season, so I couldn't put St. Louis above DC, so I got DC at number 2. Houston, despite the loss to Birmingham, I put them at number 5, slid Arlington down to number 6. I think that this may be just one of those years for Arlington, with there are just too many things getting stacked against them. And I think out of those two, Houston maybe has a little better shot of still making some noise yet. And then 7 and 8, Memphis and San Antonio, you could flip-flop those two as well. But I just think that Memphis has played a little bit better football consistently, especially on defense for sure.
To me, Memphis is a more scary team than San Antonio.
Right.
That's why I agree with them at 7.
So So pick it apart. Does anybody have any issues with the way I've got the rankings?
Chris
Go ahead,
mentioned,
Mike.
Obviously Frank Ginda is going to be he's going to be truly a miss being out on the field. That's awful. Like even like with when West Hills went down, that was crushing. So figure it out to rally together. They may put them DC 1A, 1B. It's that close. What you could flip either two. Same thing with 3 and 4. And now the leaders are starting to spread out, but they're not going to pull away just yet. Like going back to the Kentucky Derby analogy. So still a little bunch together. So there is a chance. So I read there is a chance Breland Speaks may return this season. So look, keep an eye out for that.
What's your thoughts, KJ?
Yeah, I mean, bottom half is what it is. I think if you're an intelligent fan who can look back and see kind of the personnel changes that have occurred amongst the teams over the course of the season, I think you put Jalen in all 3 quarters against Arlington week 2 or whatever it was, and we would have won that game. That's just my opinion based on the scoring margin of our loss. When we did play him, having Nolan play, I think a big chunk of that game. Respected to the top end, I'd say, honestly, the only shift I could see making, because to your point, we talked about the quarterback component of Birmingham. Arguably, they could, jump anywhere up from 3 to 2nd place, in my opinion. But, I mean, I don't disagree at all with having Michigan number 1, and I think definitely St. Louis deserves to be in the top 4. There's no question there. So,
well, I think right now you're probably looking at barring, some sort of utter collapse by one of the top 4 teams, those are probably your playoff teams at this point.
Yeah.
Unless Houston makes an unbelievable run here at the end, or something like that. I mean,
right. It's an 80+ percentile likelihood, to your point.
Arlington has a chance. They have to must win weekend for them.
Well, yeah, they definitely have to win. I mean, as I was looking through the
if they get by this week, it's favorable.
Arlington has the defenders. If they lose this weekend is a must win. If they win, they're still in it. Because I think what do they finish with? San Antonio and Memphis is who Arlington finishes with. So this is the most paramount week for Arlington that there ever could be.
Yep.
For them to keep their playoff chances alive. They still have a chance to finish 6 and 4.
I find it humorously ironic, but also like fitting that even if we are to somehow pull up the amazing, miraculous 3-win streak at the end of this season and pull out the second string or second spot for the playoffs on the USFL side, we still have to go back through Birmingham to get to the championship. So it's like the football gods are saying, Houston, you're not going to get a championship chance. Birmingham at home. So
the next Michigan for Houston, the next Michigan Birmingham game is going to hang in the balance with what if they keep winning and Michigan plays Birmingham again. That's a game that could also play huge factors in Houston's run. So, like I said, it's not over yet. There's still another blip in there that could get Houston in. So
yeah, I'm like, to your point there, Mike. I guess if we are,
I'm Doctor Strange right now.
If we are somehow able to pull off the upset this coming weekend, it would be ironic. But I could see Houston Roughneck fans rooting for Birmingham to pull off the win in Week 9, just for that very privilege or aid to our own.
Giving Thanos the time stone. That's really what Houston's got to do.
You lost me there. Whatever.
I got to get the Avengers fans to they'll watch the bottom line now.
You lost me.
Before we get to our pick segment, I thought I'd throw up here real quick the leaders in each of the categories through Week 7. So here we've got our pass leaders. We've got Jordan Tamu. Really head and shoulders above the rest as far as passing yards go.
Does Bryce have enough in the pass, do you think?
I was going to say, is there enough of the
that'll be fun to watch, too. Let's see.
I think Bryce passes the least, but DC is very pass heavy.
We have a QB race, folks. I like it.
I still don't think that matters. I still think Bryce Perkins is MVP. I don't think the passing is going to matter. But I do think
to look at and see the competitiveness. Quarterbacks are competitors. They watch.
I think to your point, Eric, there it's like there's a reason why his number is so much lower, even though, yeah, he hasn't played the full same number of games Tomu or Lewis has. Like, I mean, heck, I was going to make the comment earlier. You take away his entire passing stat sheet and just look at his running stat sheet. If you were some ignorant fan of football or never followed the league before, you'd look at him and think he was a running back. I mean, he's literally averaged one rushing touchdown at minimum a game.
Yeah.
Multiple games, he's had more than that. So
yeah, the passing leader thing is not going to keep him from being the MVP of the league.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
So let's show the rushing yards.
I'd vote for him.
Nothing real impressive for rushing yards.
There's Bryce.
Again, you got Bryce Perkins. That shows where he's at. Of course, Balaj is hurt now for the season, so let's move on because they're wide receivers.
Memphis there.
Memphis leading by a very small margin.
They're winning something. That's good for they're a talented bunch. You just gotta put it all together.
If we flip over to defense and look at sack leaders, PETA is leading with 6.5 sacks on the defensive side. So maybe I'll try and get tackles for next week and see if I can find anything on that. But without further ado, let's get into our picks so we can get out of here. First game. Well, let's put where we currently stand up there on the ticker.
Do you just want to put the whole graphic up and then we just fire through them? Or do you want to just go through each game?
Yeah, that's fine. We can do it that way. That's probably a good idea. Again, good job on these, KJ.
Appreciate it.
Oh, let me get over here.
Yep, gotta slide to the.
Yeah, you gotta slide. Oh, you gotta slide over if you want to be in there.
There we go.
Where'd Eric go?
We have to go the opposite way, Mr. Eric.
Eric, you're not holding a Mountain Dew bottle, are you?
No.
Okay.
Just on that side of it, right there.
So anyway, the San Antonio Memphis game. KJ is the only one taking San Antonio. I thought about it, but they're just playing way too inconsistent right now.
It just
went
seems
with,
like
Memphis.
what can go wrong will go wrong for San Antonio. But I could see San Antonio winning this game, so it's not. It wouldn't shock me.
The second game between St. Louis, Birmingham travels to St. Louis, Saturday noon game. St. Louis is favored by 2.5. The over-under is 39.5. I took St. Louis, but really for the simple reason of St. Louis kind of has a nice thing going where no USFL team has won in the Dome during the regular season yet. So until that happens, I got to go with the XFL.
It's a good stat in their favor.
I'm taking home field advantage, home crowd advantage. I mean, it's definitely a different atmosphere to play in.
I think if they win, that'll be the difference maker, 100%.
This is fun for the USFL XFL rivalry. Those who want to, this is at its like peak here. This will be a lot of fun to watch. I think Birmingham they just keep showing different things. They're winning different ways. And then their quarterback, I think Alex Magoo, you may have to have faced Alex Magoo. So this is going to be.
I don't think so.
Let's see. I don't know.
I don't think so.
It's going to be a close game just like that. What Chris just mentioned, just like that. It's going to be just like that. It's going to be an incredible game. It may top Michigan, St. Louis.
God bless Mr. Mason for giving my rough mix some points. I can't believe he thought we'd do that well.
Yeah, Chris has got a barn burner, 40-39. Arlington pulling out the win.
That's another fun weekend.
The last one was 37-33, so he might not be far off.
imagine if we get something like that'll be incredible. That'll be a lot of fun football.
But the
So then
second,
our final game of the, it was a clean sweep for Michigan. Michigan is 6-point favorites over Houston. The game's at Houston with an over-under of 43.5. It's a clean sweep for Michigan. What do you think, AJ? Does Houston bounce back in this game?
I mean, I want them to. I desperately do. But I think, as me and Mike talked previously, I think, ironically, as things are probably going to play out, we have a higher likelihood of winning the last game of the season than the first of our two matchups. So I don't know. That's just my thought process. But I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong.
Then the final game of the weekend, Arlington traveling to DC. DC is a 3-point favorite. Over unders 43.5. DC with a win over Arlington would eliminate Arlington. Well, close to elimination, but Arlington really needs to win out if they have any kind of chance of getting back in the playoff race. So Mike is the only one that took Arlington. The other three, the rest of us took DC.
I want to thank you for the opportunity to potentially overtake you this week, just in case.
Well, I'm taking some fun swings. I was preseason. I was really heavy on. I was liking Arlington. I'm hanging on. Like we're kind of in that same boat. Like I picked you at the beginning of the season to make a run at this championship. You guys, hey, let's keep going here. We're not.
You should be rooting for St. Louis, Mike.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm just rooting for this. Is gonna be a fun football weekend. That's a pick'em game, and then in the spirit of USFL, XFL, I was like,
Eric, let's just be real. At this point, we're just battling for not last place, right? So
Big Mike says Birmingham, Memphis, Michigan, and DC is his picks.
There you go, Big Mike. Appreciate you participating. Always good to see viewers' thoughts too. It's very nice.
So there it is.
I'm the lone wolf. Let's see that last game. It's going to be just those watching think about this pick here. So when then Arlington comes out with the W, you go, oh, Mike was on to something. So tune in next time, see how it goes.
If they do win, it's going to make the XFL side a lot tighter. What's that, Ed?
I didn't think Mike was capable of picking an XFL team.
I didn't either.
Hey, at time, I thought to myself too, I used to make a hoot about the Houston Roughnecks helmets, stuff like that, and I'm just like, I'm over it.
I'm over it.
Yeah. Yep. Be you, Houston. Be you.
Hey, if Arlington wins and Birmingham wins, the XFL side is still real tight, and Arlington has the advantage down the stretch.
But I do want to give a shout out talking uniforms. I can go another 2 hours about uniforms.
Oh, geez. We don't have that kind of time.
Michigan with the gold pants. Keep that going.
With that said, that puts a wrap on another week of the bottom line.
44 straight weeks.
44 straight weeks. And welcome to
forwards. That's the Houston mantra right there. Y'all watch out.
Again, welcome KJ to the Bottom Line Podcast. Looking forward to. So, who's your college team?
Houston.
Run and shoot.
Should have known that.
Oh my God, he's Houston all the way, huh?
Yeah, man.
Yep.
So what made you end up at Nashville? Is that a job or?
Yeah, so I'll keep it really fast. So 2017, I had a job opportunity to work for a company that had a Houston location, but they wanted me for another position, brought me to Memphis. And the long-term vision was I'd only be there for 5 years. I'd move back to Houston once they allowed me to horizontally shift. That didn't happen. Ended up dating my now wife, who I had dated previously for a year when I was working remote in East Tennessee, and then changed employers, moved to Nashville, and I'd taken my wife once to Houston to a UH game, stupidly in the middle of September on a Saturday midday game in TDCU Stadium that has nearly no cover. She sweated and got cooked like a chocolate chip cookie, and I had to buy her a brand new shirt at the team shop at halftime because she sweat through her shirt. And suffice to say, she was not a fan of the Houston Humidity and Heat. So it'll be either at a retirement age or when, if she kills over first, that I'll be moving back to Houston until then.
Be as best prepared for that. Like wear a white loose fit clothing. Like they have like those fans you have around your neck, cooling towels. So when I go to NASCAR races, that's me. I'm that guy.
I can't endorse that. Sorry, Mike. That's that.
I gotta believe, just a hunch, but I gotta believe that chances are, if you go to a race in Michigan, Mike, it's not going to compare to something in Houston.
No.
It doesn't get humid up here, though.
With that said, everybody have another great week and enjoy football again this weekend. We got some great matchups. Until next week, if it's the UFL, it's the bottom line. We'll see you again next week.
And that's the bottom line.